Traveling is such a fascinating subject. Many people, when they come here to Finland, they always, or at least to Opisto, they always talk about how they want to go traveling to this place and this place and this place. And I guess what I've realized um, here when I've been in Finland, or Opisto especially, it's been that I'm here to get the experiences of Opisto. And if I go traveling, well, that's just another side thing.
One thing I have learned about traveling in Finland is it's a blessing to have the student card. It saves me a lot of money on traveling, and traveling here is so expensive that I don't know how I do it without the student card and getting the student discount and everything. So I live up in Ranua, which is very high north in the country, and it's kind of a bummer because it means that it costs a lot to travel places, but I don't know. I go to Oulu every second weekend, which is on our off weekends, or most of the time I take the Opisto bus down to Oulu. But some of the times I have to go further, like down to Kokkola or to Helsinki or wherever else that I would be going, and it costs a lot.
In terms of some of my travels in Finland, I haven't had tons of weird situations, mostly because the public transportation in Finland is pretty chill and easy to work with most of the time. But there was one time I was heading up to Lapland and we didn't really understand that. Oh, when they say in Finland you need to bring beddings, it just means like your sheets and your duvet covers. And so I faithfully carried my blankets all the way across Finland, and that was not the most fun thing to show up in the cabin and realize, oh, ha 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 ha, I didn't need this huge blanket. But also, I just remember coming back from Portugal and I was like, oh, Finland, like as the plane was touching down, it was snowing and like you can hear the Finnish language in the airport, and I was like, okay, something I actually understand a bit of, like I'm home. And then I got outside and catch my train to, like, first my train leaving the airport, and then I'm sitting there waiting for my train back to the Opisto, and I'm waiting, and first the train's like 5 minutes late, and then it's 10 minutes late because of snow, and it was barely snowing, and I was like, oh, I hate Finland, this public transportation is so stupid. But no, I love Finland, but it was just funny, like how as soon as the public transportation was late, I was just like, oh, really, 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 like, can't my train just be on time?
Another thing that I learned is apparently hitchhiking is not as scary as like it seems like it should be here because I've actually done it. Here's the story. We were going from Oulu to one of my friends' homes, and we took the train, and once we got to our train stop, it was about 9 kilometers to her home. However, we didn't have a ride to get there, so we were going to start walking, and then the group of people I was with, they're like, hey, let's just try, see if we can get somebody to pick us up and take us there. And it worked. Some kind woman came and picked us up and brought us straight to their home. Turns out she knew the mother of the friend, but yeah, it worked really well.
So far I've taken 2 out-of-country trips. Once I went to Ireland with the AMCANs from Reisjärvi as well as Ronoa. And then I went to Denmark as well just a couple weeks ago. And these were both 2 very different trips in the terms of what the purpose was of the trip and how many people were with, and it really changed the dynamic of the trip. As in the first trip, there was a whole group of us there was 8 of us, I believe. And then in my trip to Denmark, there was only 2 of us. And as well as the trip to Ireland, we were there for like a week. And the trip to Denmark, we went there for a 1-day trip, so there's a lot of big differences in that. Personally, I prefer that going with a small group or like with the 2 or 3 people.
So the first trip I took outside of Finland was going to Berlin with the other AMCANs from Yemsa, and it was really fun for me because I'm kind of a nerd, or a bit of a nerd, and we got to go and see a lot of museums and historical sites. And given that so many of the things we learned about in my world history class happened in Berlin, it was really cool to see all of that and like learn about it where it happened. And probably the most mind-opening day was when we went and we visited a concentration camp, maybe half hour out of Berlin. I forget the name of it, but it was so deep, and the information was so heavy that we learned, and I know that it will stick with me for pretty much ever. Also, we got to see a lot of cool churches and organs, and that was really beautiful because I really like music and organs, and that was a very enjoyable trip in that regard. Also, there's something about traveling with other people. When you're together, you learn a lot about each other. You have a lot of time to spend just sitting there chatting and talking about life. And so I learned a lot about the 3 other AMCANs. And that was something I really appreciated as well.
So this Opisto year, I have traveled 2 times outside of Finland. The first time was in the fall. It was just after our fall break, and I went to Ireland with the Americans and Canadians from Ranwa and Reisjärvi Opistos. The second time I went was just a couple weeks ago. It was on my ski break, Hiihtoloma, and we went to Portugal. So like I said, my first trip was to Ireland, and it was quite the adventure. We went with 8 of us from Ranwa and Reisjärvi, and I think it was all of our first trip, so none of us really knew what to expect. The first few nights went pretty well. We stayed up in a hostel in Dublin, and we explored the city, and it was really great fun. We ate food, and it was a good experience, and then we went up to Killarney, and we stayed in a cottage, and we had all sorts of experiences there too. For example, the one morning we woke up and we went to the national park, and we went biking, and we spent all day there, and we biked through some pretty crazy waters. It was quite the adventure. We went down one trail that said that the path was flooded, and it turns out if it says path is flooded, probably you shouldn't go there because yeah. Anyway, we didn't really pay it much attention, and we went anyway, and there was a tree down in the path, but that didn't really stop us either. We just really wanted to get to the castle and see what it would be all about, and we didn't know if there would be a different way, so we just thought, whatever, let's try it. But the water got too deep, and we decided, whatever, let's take this other path, maybe this one will go there, and it worked. So this bike trip was pretty fun. We had some good adventures, like taking the picnic. A few of us girls stopped in a random spot and just went swimming with our clothes, and we saw some really pretty castles and different sights, and the mountains were beautiful, and everything was just amazing. But there were some small negative sides to it as well. But that didn't stop us from having a good time.
After that was the kind of sketchy part, because we go back to Dublin, and we don't have a for sure place to stay. We can't find a place to stay. Every place is booked because there just happens to be a marathon in Dublin on that weekend that we were there. So for 2 nights, we were homeless. And the first night, I know the girls went to McDonald's, I believe it was. And then me and the other guy on the trip, which is Dustin, we decided that we're gonna go. I decided that I was just gonna go walk around the city and see what it was like. And so we walked up and down the Liffey River talking, and then Dustin wanted to sleep a little bit, so we sat down at a bench, and he lay down a little bit, and I sat there, and he slept for maybe half an hour. So thank you, bench. I hope you were comfortable for Dustin, because you weren't for me the next night. So the others had wanted to go sleep somewhere else. I don't know where it was, or off the top of my head, it was like, gave a little bit of cover from the wind. Anyways, they went to go sleep there first, and then I, of course, just kind of, because I pulled an all-nighter the night before, so I was really, really, really tired. But I was stupid, and I decided I was going to go explore the city some more, because I love just seeing people in their element. But I don't know if that would necessarily be their element, as they were all drunk. But it's interesting seeing people watching. But then I decided to sit down on the bench, and all of a sudden, some person walks by, and then another person walks by, and then finally this homeless guy comes up and walks up and sits on the other side of the bench. And then maybe 5 minutes later, some people walked up and they offered both me and this homeless guy something to eat and to drink. And it was so funny to me because I had never been in that situation before. And I was like, nope, I can't take that. But it was still, it was so interesting to me. I'd never had that offered to me before. So it was a decent experience. And then after that, I was just so tired. I could not hold my eyes open. And I just fell asleep for maybe half an hour. Then at some point I decided, I'm going to go look for the others or go back to the others. And so I walked back. But there was kind of a thing that I don't know if it's because I was just so tired that I don't remember anything. But I remember waking up 3/4 of the way there. And mind you, this is on a very busy road. And there's probably at least 5 crosswalks that I made it across. Like, I was probably, I don't know if I was sleepwalking or if I was just like 3/4 or like 3/4 asleep or what was going on. But yeah, that happened.
The second night of being homeless, I think some security guys at one of the grocery stores figured out that we didn't have a place to stay and that we were pretty innocent people. So they let us stay in Spar, was the name of the store, for the night, and we all just huddled in a corner and slept there. And it was cozy. It was cold and it was uncomfortable, but we all slept because we were tired. It wasn't very much sleep, but it was better than being out in the cold wind and rain. And then the last night we spent in the airport, I don't think we got much sleep there either because it was very cold and rainy. And so the whole Ireland trip, the first half was really fun and we slept good and we ate well, but then the second half we were homeless, so it was a little bit rougher. And yeah, it was a bit more challenging. We were all overtired and from eating or not sleeping and eating only baguettes and cheese and maybe an apple too. It was a good adventure, but it was something I think we all could learn from. And the next trips will go better, I think.
So my most recent trip, aside from Sweden, was to Portugal with Julia and then a couple girls from Reykjavik and a girl from Finland. And it was really, really fun. It was so cool because everything was green and we got to go to a palace and like I said, I'm kind of a nerd and I was just amazed that someone actually could live in that place. It was just beautiful. The walls were so colorful and there's so many buildings just all over Portugal that had beautiful tile on them. And we got to go driving in the mountains and just go for drives because we rented a car there, and I'm really glad of that decision. But also it was pretty funny. In our first video, we mentioned that we were just struggling to get gas, and we couldn't figure out because if the gas pump was like prepay or after or however it was, because we had to pay inside. And so we pull up to the first one and it's not working, and we're like, okay, this is dumb. Pull up to a second one and it goes. So we're like, okay, but you had to select an amount first, and we had selected not quite enough to fill up the car. And so then we're like, okay, go pay, go try again. And it's just not working. And finally some policeman comes over and helps us out. And he's just giggling at us the whole time. Or not giggling, but he's so amused. Like, oh, these silly North American girls can't figure out how to get gas. Ha ha ha.
We're chilling in some gas station parking lot in Portugal near the airport, and we're trying to get gas, and there's a security guy who's laughing at us. Actually, I think the whole entire store is laughing at us.
With reason. Like, they have reason to laugh
We've
at us.
been
We're
driving
pretty
around
bad.
forever just being like, this is stupid! Mm-hmm. Why can't we... The girls are out there trying to get gas. And we're just hanging out while the police guy laughs. But we were able to see some nice oceans, and even though we didn't get to go swimming, which is kind of disappointing, but whatever, the weather was too bad. It was still so nice to see the ocean and just be there again and climb the rocks and, I don't know, be by the waves and be in the warm. Okay, maybe it wasn't that warm, but it was a lot warmer than it was here in Finland, so it was a nice time to be there. Overall, the Portugal trip was pretty relaxed, and we had a lot of good times, and it was nice to be able to drive around the country and just kind of have our own little freedoms and relax for a week.
Guys, so I guess what I took this opportunity for is that just letting you know that yes, we are having audio difficulties right now. We know the problem, and there is that desync in some of the videos, like mine, some of Julia's. However, hopefully they will be fixed in the near future, as I have figured out the problem now, and so hopefully we won't run into this in future vlogs. And also, if you have any comments or suggestions for topics or just questions in general for us in Finland, let us know in the comments below, and we might answer them in a future